We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel.
But we've already lost significant jobs and customers, and we'll never see those back. We need responses immediately.
Canadian officials have said over and over, if the U.S. imposes tariffs on steel and aluminum, Canada would respond.
He's taken note of what Trump has said and promised to defend workers and community.
Our old relationship with the United States is over.
I think you're going to see shipments from Canada to the United States completely stop.
I want to ensure that France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries.
So as things stand, this is a break, not a breakup. But if Trump keeps this up, you never know.
In a stunning escalation that sent shockwaves around the globe, Donald Trump just ignited a trade war with America's closest ally, Canada. With a single declaration, decades of economic trust were flipped into outright confrontation. No negotiation. No advance notice. Just a jarring 50% steel tariff, doubling the 25% rate he had already imposed back in April. The message rang loud and clear. America first, even if it means slamming the door on loyal allies. And if this blindsided you too, now's the time. Hit that like button, drop your reaction in the comments, and subscribe, because what's coming next might just redraw global alliances. To Trump, tariffs aren't policy tools. They're blunt force weapons. And right now, he's launching them without hesitation. But this isn't just about Canada. This strike shakes the entire foundation of North American economic unity. When the original 25% hit on April 2nd, Canadian steel mills went into emergency mode. Shipments halted, hotlines lit up, and now with the rate doubled, this is no longer brinkmanship. It's a calculated blow.
Replacing Canadian supplies, easier said than done for key American industries like aerospace and defense, with Canada as the largest steel and aluminum supplier to the U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney spent much of the campaign pushing back against Trump's tariffs, instead leaving it to the Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who tweeted he's taken note of what Trump has said and promised to defend workers and community. Trump has promised the tariffs would come in on June 4th, but he hasn't signed anything to make that official, which could lead to a movie we saw back in March.
He has made the decision to add a 25% tariff. So now steel and aluminum tariffs will come into effect tomorrow at the rate of 50%.
The administration ended up quickly backing down before those additional tariffs came into force, but the constant threats underscore the chaos that is rapidly hurting Canadian business.
Trump says it's about protecting U.S. steel. But let's be honest, this isn't smart economics, it's political theater. Nearly half of America's steel imports come from Canada. Not a rival, a critical partner. From fighter jets to automotives to infrastructure, America depends on that steel. Pushing the tariff to 50%, that's like cutting your own lifeline and expecting to breathe easier. Inside Washington, quiet panic spread. Commerce officials reportedly raised red flags about immediate disruptions. Legal procedures weren't even finalized when Trump went public. Volatility used to come from unstable markets. Now, it's coming from the Oval Office. And the fallout? Potentially catastrophic. Canada isn't just a vendor, it's the US's top supplier of steel and aluminum. You can't sever half your supply chain overnight and expect production to remain stable. Tanks, aircraft, commercial fleets, they all rely on Canadian materials. But Trump pushed forward. No coordination, no backup plan. Just chaos. This isn't the first time we've seen the playbook. Grand announcements, unclear legal footing, and eventual quiet backpedals. But this time, Canada isn't waiting. Orders are drying up, factories halting, thousands of jobs now hang in limbo. Businesses don't run on shockwaves, they run on certainty. And at the heart of this unraveling, broken trust. Canada has stood by the US through war, trade, and global crises. But Trump tore up the rules mid-game. This isn't tough negotiation, it's economic betrayal. And while Trump stirs the pot, Canada is moving forward without him.
And months of disarray and uncertainty. So this is yet another, punch in the gut, if you will, from the president on the domestic steel industry here in Canada. We're their largest trading partner in steel. They're our largest trading partner as well. And we're highly integrated. And, simply put, we do not understand at all why this is happening. And it will have negative consequences. I obviously negative consequences in Canada with the domestic steel industry industry in many forms, but it will also have significant consequences to the United States in terms of security of supply and in terms of pricing. Well, the president actually did do this once before, just ahead, I think it was in mid-March. And, we thought at that point, so I guess we always know there's a risk, unpredictability with the president, but did we expect this? Absolutely not. And we didn't expect tariffs in the first place, given the business that I was describing earlier and how integrated we are with the United States. It's completely unjustified.
Enter Mark Carney, Canada's new prime minister, a calm, calculating economist with no interest in Twitter wars. While Trump raises the volume, Carney is raising the stakes. His government is quietly developing a counteroffensive that could realign global trade for decades. Don't be fooled by his silence. It's strategy. And the next move? It could reshape everything. Because this 50% tariff isn't just an economic hit, it's a geopolitical trigger. One that may push Canada into deeper trade deals with Europe while fracturing the North American alliance beyond repair. And Canada's steel industry isn't mincing words. CEO Catherine Cobden didn't call it tough. She called it what it is, a gut punch. No warning, no negotiation, just brute force from a supposed ally. Her frustration echoes across the border. The US and Canada didn't just trade steel, they built a joint system. Cross-border factories, shared assembly lines, co-produced materials. Trump didn't just disrupt trade, he lit a match under an integrated system. Cobden didn't need to raise her voice. Canada wasn't dumping cheap steel or undercutting prices. They were the most stable, rule-following partner the US had. And they got burned anyway.
Absolutely. The premiers that are, that have the most steel in their province are deeply engaged, and we expect they will be raising this as well with the federal government. But I want to make one thing really clear. Even though this is a new development over the course of the last, 12 hours or so, we do know we have been asking for the exact same thing from the federal government, even under the 25% tariff. We mustn't forget the 25% tariff was creating havoc and disruption as well. So this sort of doubles down the urgency, if you will, and accelerates the job losses. But we've already lost significant jobs and customers, and we'll never see those back. We need responses immediately. So that's kind of the good news in this. It's not the beginning of the story in the sense that we have been asking the government for the exact same thing yesterday as we're asking for them today. So they should be in a ready position to respond.
That kind of betrayal doesn't just break contracts, it breaks alliances. Now, factories are freezing, contracts are collapsing. Businesses that spent years nurturing US relationships are now discarded like scrap. It's the equivalent of being evicted by your best friend in the middle of winter. And the global message? If America can pull the rug out from Canada, who can they turn on? This erratic trade move is rewriting America's image, from reliable global leader to unpredictable disruptor. And the rest of the world is watching and adjusting. The 25% tariff already caused widespread layoffs and supply chain breakdowns. Now at 50%, it's an all-out economic hurricane. Cobden warns this may wipe out half of Canada's steel exports. Decades of trade shattered in days. Imagine half your country's industrial base losing its top client overnight. That's not diplomacy. That's devastation. And even if tariffs are lifted later, the lost deals and damaged trust won't magically return. But Cobden isn't begging. She's demanding Canada be equipped to compete, even without the US. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Canada's done waiting. And retaliation? It's not just being considered, it's underway. Border controls, supply reroutes, and trade recalibrations are already in motion. This isn't just policy, it's a defense mechanism. Canada no longer sees the US as a dependable friend. They see a liability. And beneath Cobden's composed delivery lies a hard truth. This isn't about steel, it's about sovereignty. Because when the threat comes from your closest ally, the only choice is to find new roads, new partnerships, and new power centers. While Trump barks, Carney is building bridges, eastward. Toward Brussels, toward Berlin, toward a new era. And that direction? It's permanent. This isn't a trade hiccup. It's a global fracture, a turning point, a severing of old ties. And at the center of the shift is national security, because Canada has learned depending on chaos is not a strategy. Final call to action. If this story rattled you the way it rattled the world, make your voice heard. Drop a comment with your take, Smash that like button to keep this story alive, and subscribe so you're never in the dark when the next chapter breaks. What's ahead could shift alliances, power, and industry, and you'll want to be right here to watch it happen.